Yeah, if you're on gallery view and then people are speaking and it shows the yellow square around them, on speaker view, that's just whoever is front and center.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to those of you who are joining us. I'm excited that we're finally getting one of these together. Andy and I have been talking about this for literally as long as I have been in BNI.
We have
So
years here.
yeah, exactly. Good stuff. So basically what Andy and I kind of want to do here, we're hoping that this is the first of more of these, but essentially what we want to do in this setting is to kind of talk about something that we have a lot of experience in, the sales and being in a sales mindset, and kind of working with everyone to figure out what more value that we can provide to try and help you in your respective businesses, because we know everybody's business is 100% different than the next. So that's kind of what we want to do. And what else do you want to add there, Andy?
Just wanted to say, a lot of times I think we assume that, as business owners or people that are working or in BNI, have come from a background in sales, and I find that more often than not that may not be the case, and we kind of go with the flow, but not when we kind of get down to the specifics of things in how you actually um, get that client or customer acquisition. Like, how does that flow look like? Quite often they're like, I don't know where my clients are coming from, and I'm kind of stuck, right? And hopefully from these videos or events, these mastermind sessions that we conduct, we can put all our minds together, all our sales experience together, and kind of refine and elevate our own experience that way and knowledge. And hopefully we can apply that also to our individual businesses or whatnot that we're trying to grow. I find that with BNI, it's one way of teaching in regards to how to network, but you still need to be really good at what you do in your business. You still need to sell, right? At the end of the day, I believe that we are all salespeople, but how you decide and how you approach sales could be very different. And maybe a little bit of introduction, I guess. Like, a lot of people here on the call know my background in history. I believe it was back in 2006, I entered Acra World, started my first sales job, not knowing really what I know now, but it was very, very scary because I didn't know if I could actually sell something, let alone something of that price tag. And I must say now that, I've been there for 7 years, and the things that I've learned moving forward from Acra to Lexus, I think what I've learned at Lexus really is equivalent to even more than what I've learned at Acra. And I found that there's completely different ways of training, and I think a lot of it came down to mindset, right? Perspectives on how you conduct business, how you approach sales. And now I find that I'm able to really take that whole sales transaction um, and that pressure and upselling or selling out of the picture, and really truly understand what the wants and needs of my clients are. And at the end of the day, what I find that it just builds really, really solid relationships, and not having to worry about what the end goal is, right? So that's kind of a little bit about my background. And I think that understanding process is very important within your business. Without understanding that, it's very hard to refine it, right? You don't know if one specific process is exists, and if you're going to make the same bad habits, it's really going to carry through your whole entire career, your entire life. And if you can learn one thing out of it, from all this, I think that's going to take you to the next level as well, by changing sometimes the most simplest things.
100%. Yeah, I think that's really well said, and that's a good way to start too with as far as background goes. I'm relatively young, but I started in the automotive industry basically more or less right out of high school, and started off. My whole goal was to get into cars, working with cars every day. And so I pushed. I put on hundreds of applications on Kijiji, and I finally got a job as a photographer for Go Auto. And my mentality always was to try and do more, try and add more value for those around me, and to try and find more ways that I can supplement or assist the business in any way. And through that, after about a year and a half of working through things, I ended up getting asked to do sales by the owner of Go Auto. And then from there, I hadn't considered a sales role before. I didn't see what I did before as sales. It was just kind of just where can I be of a better service, or where do I want to go. And when I tell that story, not to kind of showcase anything other than it's just kind of for me, the sales side of things, I guess, is something that I've always understood value in, at least. And what I've done, and where I kind of gone from the automotive industry, about working with not only domestic brands but subprime, difficult to finance things, going into the finance industry and learning that back end side of it, and then transitioning into other totally unrelated things like marketing, like action sports, and now shipping containers of all things. I've used a lot of the tactics and a lot of things in methodologies that I've learned from a lot of different things, and I've kind of just generalized them, kind of made a lot of them analogous, and then put them into kind of what I do today. So what I kind of wanted to focus on there is Andy and I have been in a lot of different backgrounds for a really long time, and we're kind of really familiar with this, but we know that that's not everybody's background, and so that's what we're trying to help provide value with for everyone here. So thank you hello Margaret, I haven't said hi to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Margaret.
So yeah, I guess to kind of get started, I think the one thing that Andy and I were talking about before that is universal in any application. It doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's a pen or a car or a house or land. It's understanding the kind of basic portions of that journey. So I think the three kind of ones that are synonymous to every industry and any type of interaction is, what problem are you, or why is the customer reaching out to you? What problem are you solving? How does your service or product help the person that's inquiring for it? What is going to motivate them to make that decision and to choose you? And then the follow-up process of that. How do you nurture that relationship to ultimately provide more value to the client, but also that repeat business? So those are kind of the three things there. Andy, where do you want to start with that?
Do you want to go with a little bit of what I shared with you in terms of like the mindset on maybe on a general spectrum first, and then kind of go specific?
Sure.
Okay, so am I able to share screen?
I will make you participant or co-host, and you should be able to.
Perfect, thanks.
No problem. There you are. Yeah, so Andy's pulling up some stuff that is just kind of hopefully will give you some insight on kind of where the first steps are.
So again, this purpose of today is on mindset, of course. So let's quickly talk about mindset, because I feel that is often overlooked, and it's very, very important. Like I practice this religiously pretty much on a daily basis. And I got this piece from when I was online doing some research about this topic. I would have to find where the source is from, but I found that it really resonated with me as well, and I agree with what is being said. So I'll share with you guys here. So 6 ways to develop an effective sales mindset. So number 1 is know exactly why your product or service can help your clients, because a lot of times we actually we'll assume that our products fits everyone. We'll assume that our products are good and great for every individual. But a lot of times we don't know our product enough, or maybe we don't know the benefits enough, and we try to kind of shove it down the throats of our clients and say, yeah, this is going to fit you. This vehicle is going to fit you. It's great. It's good on gas, blah, blah, blah. But what if those things are not as important to the client as you may think, right? So I put in there, great sellers understand the why of their product or service. You know, why is it your product service so great? You know, what is the USP, right? In the business world, people say USP, unique selling proposition. Why you, why now, right? So what motivates buyers to choose a particular product or service? So is it because it's faster speed that you're delivering this product or service? Is it a faster turnaround? Is it because I make suits and it's 3 to 4 weeks, or it's 6 to 8 weeks? Does that make a difference? You know, is it improved quality, right? Is it something that you're providing better on a material level if we're talking about suits, but if it's not on a material level, let's say if it was insurance, is the quality of that type of insurance better? Perhaps maybe it's more marketing or exposure to the product or service that they're receiving through various outlets, right? That gets the message out. Or is it because you're better conveying your value? A lot of times we in the sales industry, we always focus, especially salespeople in the car industry, they focus on price. My client wants the best price. You know, this client wants the best price. They don't believe that we deserve to make a profit. They just want to grind us. But I found through my experience that's not true. It is if you did a bad job. If it is, if you didn't convey the value, or if you didn't do a proper needs assessment and you're trying to fit them into something that doesn't, you know, it's something that they don't want and they don't want to pay for. So therefore they're grinding you on price because they're compromising, right? And at the last point, do you have like an informed buyer's guide that you give to a client that maybe you just first met? Maybe it's a BNI member that you did a one-to-one with. I'll show you. I've shared this with a group before, but my dad last summer got his roof replaced. So I reached out to one of the BNI members, and it's from Rapid Roofing and Repair. So as you can see, I got this booklet. You kind of can see this booklet that goes over the process of this company. And before that, so basically I'll tell you a little bit about the story is, obviously when you're going to do a big job, you're going to be asking for 2 to 3 different quotes, right? You want to compare the quotes. But for me, I wasn't fixated only on price. I wanted to know what the process was. I wanted to know what's the difference. I'm not a specialist in the field, but at the same time, I'm trying to learn as we go. So with that, he didn't give me a quote until he went through the buyer's guide with me and said, hey, you know what? The reason why I do this, that I don't just give you a quote, is because a lot of times buyers will just look at the price and then they'll make a decision based on that, right? But you know, a lot of times what I find is buyers or customers don't exactly know what they're buying and they're only fixated on price. No difference than, let's say it was insurance, you know, whether it's auto insurance or whatnot. It's like, I want the cheapest one. Okay, but is that the coverage that you want? Is there more coverage? Is that coverage even right for you? Right? Let me explain, because without that, it's hard to make sense of what exactly you're getting, right? So he went through all the steps on why he's different. He went through his process and why it's better. He also went through the credentials in terms of having liability insurance for his workers. So you as a homeowner is protected if there's any, you know, accidents or faults of staff, that, you know, there's no liability. You know, there's things such as, you know, BBB, you know, things like that, that shows, hey, you know, we're A plus in the business, a Better Business Bureau. And, you know, this is our warranty as well. You know, when you go through us, typically people will give you 30 or 40 years warranty. However, we give you 50 years of warranty, and this is what it covers. right? And at the end of the day, we're not the most expensive. We're not the cheapest. However, this is what something I wanted to go, line by line with you, because I want you to know when you're out there shopping for price that you're comparing apples to apples. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Absolutely, right? So it's like, okay, at the end of the day, you're basically setting it up where you have the best interest of your client in mind, right?
So yeah, I would just quickly add to that too. The thing to really that can really set you apart as a unique selling proposition, especially in this example that Andy's using, is that you could do exactly the same, word for word, letter for letter, is what your competitor does. But where you can stand apart, if, even from the guy that sits beside you that does the same job, is to provide that additional information and to show why that should matter to the client. Rohan, you just had a good point there. And feeling that price becomes a big deal with home and auto because people don't have the option to not buy. Which is a really good point. But again, another way that you can set yourself apart, even from, in this example, comparing auto insurance, there's, just online resources where somebody can shop every rate that's around. But where you can stand apart is saying, hey, this gentleman's requested a quote. He's got the quote already. I'm going to send him another info package and say, hey, you know what? I may not be the cheapest here at XYZ Insurance. I may not we may not have, whatever it is that may differentiate that quote, but what you do have is me, and here's why or here's why the company, or here's why the product has that additional value. And again, it could be exactly what the next guy does, but if you're the one to highlight it, you set yourself apart by providing, I guess it's not the best way to put it, but showing doubt in the other people, because they might do the same thing, but they haven't reached out and said this to the client. So that's a really good point, Andy. I appreciate you bringing it up.
The thing is this, right? We got 2 to 3 different quotes, and actually we went with Rapid Roofing, and they weren't the cheapest. They weren't the cheapest. They're in the middle of the pack. But that's where the value comes in, right? They're conveying value, and they're stepping up their A game, right? Their professionalism, because 100% the guy that that the client's going to be talking to, 100% they're not going to be doing this. They're not going to spend the time to do a presentation, to go through why, what things to look for, and go line by line and saying what the coverage you have are. And to show confidence as well and say, hey, you know what, Jason, I know that, prices is definitely important to you. And I do respect that you're going to be going to get maybe 2 or 3 different quotes. And typically people do. I'd be happy to go over other quotes that you may have, and, answer any questions that you might, not really truly understand. Because again, understanding this is what I do for a living, right? And for you, you may not know what kind of specific coverage is. So I'm happy to go over that with you once you receive, your quote from my competitors. And at the end of the day, if you feel that, my competitor offers something more valuable, you're definitely, welcome to go with them. And I'm super happy with you. At least was able to give you a piece of information to make an informed decision. Is that fair? Boom. I didn't pressure. That's not pressure, right? And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, you're confident enough to be like, it's okay. I understand what you're doing. I understand your buying process, right? Because a lot of times we know what our selling process is, but how about the buying process? What does that look like? Right? We have to understand that to have a 360 degrees of how we're gonna properly assist this client, right? So to say that, hey, most people would go out and get 2 to 3 different quotes. And, I highly encourage you to do that as well. But one thing that I want you to do, just as a favor for me, is, don't focus just on the price. Because what I find, 8 times, 7 times out of 10, that people would actually pay more for getting the coverage that they want and need, and that they don't mind paying for. The worst thing that I can see that could happen, I certainly don't want it for you, is buying something that you think that you have in terms of coverage, but really you don't. And, when it comes to insurance, unfortunately, you don't find that out until an accident happens when you need to use it. But sometimes that's too late. Boom. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing to note, as or to your earlier point there, Rohan, is that not every customer is going to be that way. Some you are going to get those people that are just, I don't care about anything other than the bottom line dollar. I don't want to even know anything else about you, right? I don't care what your first name is. I just want the best price. Those people are going to show up, and I think it's about of a bell curve, right? You're going to have 10% of the people are going to be like that. 10% of the people are going to be like, I couldn't care less what the price is. I want to know about you. And then there's going to be that 80% in the middle that is some level of that. But the thing that we're kind of highlighting, and Andy's done really good job of focusing on, is that this is about the mindset more than anything else, and just putting yourself in the best possible position to provide the best value for your client every day of the week.
Yeah, for sure. You're from time to time you're gonna come across a D-type client, right? A dominant client that wants the information and wants it now, right?
Yeah.
And they will be the one that, if you're not a D-type kind of personality, you're gonna get pretty much dominated by them.
If
right?
there's one person or there's two people in this room that understand that, they're ex-car salesmen.
and that's, a lot of times we have to ask, do we know how to handle those situations as well, right? That's a whole different topic. But, do you fold under pressure? Do you just say like, well, this is my best price then, right? Or,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, are you helping them by giving them, a price where you're only making very little profit? Maybe, maybe not, right?
Right.
You kind of be the judge, and you're the one that controls your time and puts a dollar amount to it. So, you do have control of that if you choose. So let's move on there. And if there's
good, as you say, good point there, Rick. Yeah, helping people realize that what they don't know, and they don't know what they don't know before making the buying decision. That's a really good point. And Jason said, with home insurance, I tell my clients to talk to a good insurance person that will explain different coverages and highlight water damage and how it could change over years. Absolutely. Yeah, again, focusing on it doesn't matter if the next guy does it, but if you're the one to highlight it and to focus on that, then you automatically put yourself in a different level than your competitors.
Yep. Very true. Number 2, be helpful rather than coercive. Again, this is where a lot of salespeople, again, it could be because, a personality where we want to make the sale, we're anxious, maybe we're just excited, right? Sometimes we can come off as being a little bit too dominant or a little bit too pressure, right? We want to kind of lean back and not give out that vibe. So great sellers aim to help their customers rather than force them to a sale. It means enabling your customer to define their problem. So I wanted to really be specific. Again, it's your customer defining their problem, right? And you're helping them through this process by asking them strategic targeted questions, right? Before you can even offer a solution. Maybe your products and service doesn't fit what they're looking for unless you know, right? So ask targeted questions that will help you understand whether you're best suited to help your customer, whether they need to look at other issues first. Right. For example, in situations with Rick, for example, or could be Jason or Margaret. Maybe not so much Margaret, but in some cases where it's like, before you talk to me, I want you to talk to this person first. Right. And maybe they need to help you first before before I can help you. Sometimes it might be that kind of situation. Right. Maybe Rick's like, hey, you know what? I think you need to talk to your accountant first before we sit down and talk about, financial planning here. Or maybe we'll get the accountant, sitting at the same table when we have this meeting, right? So that's kind of things that we have to assess rather than it's like, hey, we're the ultimate solution for them. We can solve all the problems. No, right? So again, happy customers lead to more sales and dissatisfied ones spread the word. We know that as a fact, right? It's very hard to build credibility. It's very easy to lose it.
Yeah, the only thing I would really add to that with the dissatisfied customers is one thing I think a salesperson can do really well with, but also be really affected by is reacting or responding to the mentality of their clients and the way that their clients interact with them. Because the way I see a bad client now, not always, but now, is that they're the ones that are going to highlight the issues, and they're going to be the ones to blatantly and bluntly point out areas that you may be able to improve on. And they very well may not. Maybe they're just upset and saying their piece. But to use the medium happy or not so happy customers as an ability to kind of get more of an insight than your people who are saying, yeah, everything's great, don't worry about a thing, you don't have anything to improve on. That's the one downside to having 100% happy clients, I would say.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't please everyone, and you just have to understand, what the balance is, right? And you have to look out for your best interests first sometimes too, even though what we do and what we do as a profession, sometimes we have to look out for the best interests of our clients, which is true. But sometimes there's a line that's there. It's like, hey, you know what, it's just something that I can't help you. I've had situations where I've worked with clients where I just find that I'm not the solution. I'm not the right person for them. And I'll be happy to tell them that, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry. I feel that, maybe I'm not the right or the suitable person to be helping you with this particular issue, but I'll be happy to refer you to someone else that maybe be better of assistance to you. Something like
Yeah.
that. That actually, you might say, well, damn, I lost a sale there. But no, that shows your professionalism. It shows that your confidence. It shows that what your scope of expertise is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Good point there, Rohan. Rohan said also this is effective for people who we know are not within your client profile from the get go. Yeah, and a good way to actually, one of the things I wanted to mention here is to part to tie it into BNI is if you understand the general like why your client would be reaching out to you and how that you can be most of benefit to them. Another good way to tie this in with the BNI network is if you know the people that you're going to want to recommend some people to for common issues that you see. Look back at your last 100 customers and see some commonalities in the introductory portion of their inquiry to you. Get in touch with the people that you would be referring them to, like your power team, and set them up for those conversations. Say, hey, I want to have somebody I can send to if they have this general set of issues. Let's say, for example, with Rohan talking to somebody about insurance, and then they say they have a business. Hey, great. Well, we need to make sure that you get benefits, looked at here before. Maybe this makes more sense. Let's have you talk to Margaret. She's going to give you everything you need to know there, and then come back to me with what she tells you. Right. That always try and package that in the most value that you can is kind of the biggest focus here.
Cool. Let's move on to number 3 then. Have your clients' best interests at heart. Some professions govern that you have your client's best interests at heart, i.e. real estate. We know that. We have to put, our best in, the client's best interests even over our best interest when it comes to real estate, for example. There are many ways to communicate to a client that you're putting their best interests first. Start by researching what they want, ensure what you offer is closely aligned as possible to their requirements. So again, asking those targeted questions and spending a lot of time. I actually found out one thing in terms of process, in terms of the selling process. Think of a triangle. Think of a triangle upside down. And upside down, it's obviously bigger, and then it gets more and more narrow, right? And that actually defines the sales process. And at first, the first one is like needs assessment. You spend the most time in needs assessment. The bottom where the tipping point is, where of the triangle, that's the close. So you spend the most time in needs assessment, you spend the least amount of time to close them, right? To close the sale. So it makes a lot of sense. Now, what if you try to do that the other way, which a lot of people do? Spend very little time in needs assessment. They'll find that they're going to have a hard time closing the sale, sometimes losing that, right? So again, the choice is up to you in terms of how you want to run your business in the process. But I'd rather run it in a way where I really spend a lot of time to get to know them. And again, being okay that the time I invested might not pay off, right? It might not pay off at the end of the day, but at least you were able to help another person to make an informed decision that's best for their interest. And perhaps don't be afraid to ask for referrals, right? And maybe, if you're happy with what I've helped you or guided you here, if you know someone that may be potentially interested in the products and services I offer, I'd be happy to take care of them for you, right? So again, a lot of times we as salespeople, we're afraid to ask for the sale, ask for referrals, even though we did the best job that we could, right? So there's a fear factor there, but just kind of be cognizant of that. Ensuring prompt communication and concerns are handled appropriately and professionally. Again, it's a big pet peeve, right? If people is gonna get, ask you questions, make sure that you answer that question promptly. The longer that you take to answer that question, the less interest that they have in terms of wanting to know the answer. But at the same time, them wanting to know the answer is still high up there. So they're going to look for the next person that's going to be able to answer that question and help them. So that's where, when you get, let's say, a lead that comes through your portal, your website, your phone call, whatnot, within the first 2 minutes, you should get back to them, right? If it's a phone call, within 60 minutes, 90 minutes, you get back to them, right? If it's an email, within 2 to 3 hours, so, at max, things like that shows professionalism, right? And when things happen, if there's conflicts, if there's discrepancies, and there's heat, make sure that you handle that appropriately, right, and professionally. And obviously, at the end of the day, ensure that the client feels valued and important, right? We've all been there where we've gotten the VIP service and we feel that, hey, after at the end of the day, we spent the money, we handed over the credit card, but we feel good. We feel like it was worth every penny, if not more. Statistically said that people say that in terms of value, people need to only convey, in terms of value, 1 cent more than what the price you charge, people will buy it. Just 1 penny more. But how do you gauge that, right? So you always try to under deliver and over promise, or the other way around, right?
Probably the other way around.
The other way around. So you want to make sure that that's the case, right? At the end of the day, they feel comfortable working with you, and money is not an issue. It's not the primary objection, right? Because that's a lot of times we feel that, hey, it's just money, it's money. Can they afford it? No. They just want the best deal. No, right? Let's move on. Number 4, create trust. This is a big part in BNI, right? Trust is a fundamental part of a good sales mindset. Clients imply, no, what was it? Okay, I think that's a typo. Clients won't buy from someone they distrust. Makes a lot of sense. To cultivate your client's trust, don't sell a solution that's not in the customer's best interest. Don't misrepresent your product or service. Don't promise anything you can't deliver, right? I think, again, there's not a one size fit all, right? Not everyone, let's say, for example, in my business, not everyone is meant or also is suitable to be a client of mine, right? For various reasons.
I
And
appreciate that pun, by the way.
but again, I'm not out there to get all the clients either, right? I need to know what my niche market is. I need to know what my demographics that I'm talking to. So when I'm doing my marketing, when I'm making my conversations and communicating with them, that it makes sense and it's meaningful, right?
I think
So
if you don't mind me interjecting, I think that this is a really good opportunity to talk about the pen. So I'm sure that if you folks haven't already seen Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street talking about the "sell me this pen" kind of gimmick in the movie Wolf of Wall Street. The real Jordan Belfort has been interviewed on a number of times, and the one thing that he says in that is that it's not about that whole gimmick is not about trying to sell somebody a pen. That's not the point of it. That it's the test of a salesperson to provide value and to show that they know the sales journey. Because if you say, I have this pen, and you immediately go and try and explain this is the best pen, this writes the most smoothly, you're never going to need to buy another pen, so on and so forth. You've lost trust. The way to gain that trust, the way to provide the most value that there is for your customer is to say, to start asking questions. Why do you need a pen? Why are you in the market for a pen? How long have you been looking for a pen? How much money do you usually spend on pens? You know, is there do you have a preference in writing style? Things like that. Well, now that I know all these things about you, and I you know, I painted the clearest picture. I know the pen that's going to be exactly the right fit for you, and let me tell you why.
Mm.
So it's a the creating trust is something obviously that has to happen throughout the entire process. But you know, to start off with the question period as opposed to the, you know, this is why you should buy, is a really important and very often overlooked portion of the sales process.
You know what's really funny now that you told that story, because I just, this is the first time I heard you tell the story, right? But I actually quite often, when I'm talking to people as well too, you know, on more on a coaching kind of, um, I guess, purpose. I actually have a pen that I got as a gift, and it was for my wife. It's a Mont Blanc pen. I don't know if you guys. So Mont Blanc is a very known writing instrument company. It's CEOs and top companies or people that would invest in a pen, on a Mont Blanc pen. And the pen wasn't, you know, wasn't cheap. It's $800. And one person might say, well, why would you spend $800 on a pen? You know, you're crazy. You know, I can buy so many big pens with that amount of money, right? But then yet there's still a market for a pen that's worth 800, 1500, $2,000. So that kind of goes to tell you that, you know, people do pay for value regardless of price, but it's your job. Can you convey that value? Can you story tell? Could you convince them to say, you need to own this pen, right? But the first thing you say, hey, you know what, this, like what Austen said, this pen is the best pen for you, it writes the best, you've lost it. Because again, what if that's not important to them? And in the context of, let's say, car sales, if you're going to talk about the engine, you're going to go talk about the horsepower, but really the person's most number one thing is safety. Do you think you're going to get their attention? Probably not. Doesn't mean that the engine is in and horsepower isn't important, but that's not the primary importance for them. That's, you know, they trust that it's going to be powerful enough.
Yeah,
So
I think to kind of use that in the instance that would be relevant to the folks that are here now, in a you know, when you're talking about a, say, a financial product, an insurance product, or a benefit product, maybe what your kind of typical process and what the person might be interested on a regular basis is, you know, the various you know, whether it's coverages or whether it's benefits or things like that. But maybe the issue that the customer that the client that you're referring to has is actually on the customer service side of things, because they've had a horrible experience in the customer service or processing a claim settings of their previous providers. Maybe that's what's the most important to them. And so it's, I think in any business, to understand again why that customer even wants to talk to you and why they reached out to you in the first place is very, very, very important.
has any, just a quick, you know, show of hands as well, has anyone been hesitant to deliver a price with the products that they sell? Right? It's like, that's just too much. I think my client's gonna react negatively to it. So we're like, you know, the price is XYZ. And then you're just like, oh, just wait for it. They're gonna be saying that it's too expensive, they can't afford it, and I've lost them. Right? I've been there. I've been there, like with car sales specifically too, right? Especially after kind of building rapport with them and getting to know, you know, who they are, what they do for work, and all of a sudden we have this stereotypical kind of belief that, you know, they just don't have the money to buy it, and they're gonna be negative, react negatively to our comments. But no, no. When I actually walked into Mont Blanc, it was in Las Vegas. I was actually in my flip flops, in my casual clothing for once, right? And the salesperson actually came up to me and didn't, you know, didn't treat me differently, and greeted me, asked me, is it my first time to our store? I said yes. before anything, she said, okay, perfect. Let me show you around. This is our section over here. This is what it is. Over here is this. Hey, if, by the way, like, what brings you to be looking at a pen today? And then it opens me up talking about why, this is a gift. So my wife's picking it out for me, blah, blah. It's like, okay, have you ever owned a Mont Blanc pen before? No. Okay. Allow me to kind of explain to you a little bit about the benefits, and you tell me, if it's important to you or not, right? And then she pulls up this one. It's like, okay, I want you to kind of feel this one. Obviously, um, the story behind this pen is actually a UNICEF pen. As you can see at the top there, there's little bricks, designs of bricks. That's actually every pen sale that gets purchased, a portion of that goes to building homes for UNICEF. And up top there, you see that stone. That's a sapphire stone, and the clip for the pen, that's palladium. And then the black hole shaft here, that's resin, which is a very rare material. And by the way, what's important for you? Writing, is right, how smooth it writes, or how well it holds, or the weight of the pen, is that important to you? It's like, and he's asking me, right? And it's like, okay, by the way, here's a pad of paper. Feel free to write out your signature. It's like, right? And if it was like a high-end client, it's like, I understand that you make a lot of decisions in your company. You write a lot of checks and you sign a lot of checks. Obviously sometimes you need a pen that's going to be good. It's not going to create a lot of tiredness, blah, blah, blah. Here, please have a try. And then I wrote it. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. And then I said, okay, so how much is it? She's like, sir, it's only $800. Didn't say anything, right? I said, okay, I'll take it. Didn't even bat an eye, right? That's it. It's only $800. And then just said, and then the next question she asked me is like, how would you like me to wrap it up? Right? These kind of things are strategic, right? It's you. It kind of goes along with the rule that I've learned, and a lot of you guys heard of the golden rule: treat people how you would like to be treated. But then there's a platinum rule: treat people how they would like to be treated, right? Because a lot of times we feel that we have to treat them the way that we want to be treated. But what if it, no two persons the same? So if they want to be treated a certain way, if you align that with the style personality, the verbiage, all of a sudden money is secondary. You conveyed a value to me that surpasses, if you told me it's $10,000, that's different, right? But just understand that working with luxury buyers, there's a specific way of doing it. And if you're hesitant when you deliver that price, they can feel it too. They'd be like, what if you're like, hey sir, it's $800, right? You're stuttering. It's only $800. How would you like me to wrap it up for you today? Right?
Yeah, very, very, very good point. I have in my office at work, I have my model of a Dodge Viper because there's three of them I sold, but the first two that I ever sold, the first one was a gentleman who was a helicopter pilot from this massive company, and he was, it was all pre-organized and so on and so forth. Red carpet service through the whole thing. Very unnatural experience in a Dodge dealership. And then the other one was a gentleman who walked in the front door in a Alberta tuxedo of a jean jacket and his jeans and big old muddy cowboy boots, and said, "Hey, I got a check for 150 grand. Can you give me a Viper in a truck?" And that was the two most polar sales interactions I've ever had on the same product. That I don't think that I would have gotten that experience elsewhere. So it's good to point that out. Andy, we're at 45 minutes. I wouldn't mind hearing from the folks who you have in the room. What are you kind of thinking? Is there situations that you guys want some kind of feedback on based on the stuff that we talked about? Anything along those lines?
I can go. So basically, I would first like to thank the both of you because this was very informative. Most sales people, most people who've been into sales for 2 or 3 years, they have come across these points at some point of time, but it's about bringing it all together and then just recollecting and making sure you implement these in your day-to-day sales lessons, right? So I'll just share a very small story here. My first life insurance sales when I started with RBC, I remember going into my manager's office and saying, "Hey, you know what? We have $3 more than the other company. What do you think?" He's like, "Okay, how much are we?" I said, 38. The other guy's 35. So he's like, "Okay, let this sale go, but this is not how you do sales." And that brings up Andy's point over here that I've made sales after that for people who wanted $35, but I gave them $350 because I showed them the value. So it resonates a lot with what I've learned over the last 4 years being in sales. So thank you so much for your time. It was very informative.
Awesome. Well, we'll be doing more of these. Don't you guys worry. So, was there anything else, Rick or Jason or Margaret there? Do you have any questions, anything you want to add?
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, it's good. I'm taking notes. I'm actually cheating. I'm doing screenshots with PowerPoint to copy your slides. So
Perfect.
that's excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
No, it's very good. Yeah, when it comes to price, right now I got clients call me. I just want a quote on term insurance. What's a quote on term insurance? I'm getting quotes. And then I just ask more questions. I'm like, I can quote you easily on a term insurance. What's your age? What's your smoking status? But is that what you really want? What is it you really want? And they go, well, I need life insurance to protect my family. And I'm gonna go, so you want $1 million of life insurance to if you die. But what if you live and you're sick and in the hospital? And I started asking more questions. And they're like, oh, I never thought about those things. And I'm like, okay, well, let's book, instead of a quick call right now, why don't we book a meeting so you can understand all the different products? So it's not just one term insurance you need to get if you die. Well, there's statistics that say the less chance you're going to die versus getting disabled. So yes, we should have life insurance policy in place, but we should be looking at a disability policy as well, because the percentage of you getting disabled before age 65 is substantially more.
100%.
So
Jason, to up that, just to add to that a little bit as maybe a tweak,
yeah.
always tell a story, right? Facts tell, stories sell, right?
Yeah.
So always tie it and say, hey, you know what? I had a client, his name is Al. You know, he actually approached me XYZ amount of times ago, and he asked me the exact same question that you had, right? And you know, he wanted to know the price. And sometimes people want to know the price and get several quotes is because they want to know that they're getting the best deal.
Yeah.
Is it correct? Yes. So again, I was able to help him by asking more questions, sitting down with him to explain the different products and services. Because as you may know, you know, this is something that I do for a living on a daily basis, and you know, something you might not do on a daily basis. You're good at what you do. So what I like to do is I like with the clients that I serve is I don't skip any steps. I'd like to take the time to thoroughly go over the different line by line and the terminology of, you know, what each coverage entails, because a lot of times maybe you assume that you have that specific type of coverage, but you don't know until an accident happens. And you know let's hope you have that coverage, but at the end of the day, majority of people don't truly know, right? So again, just going through that and saying, hey, if at the end of the day, if I happen to be not the person for you and you decide to go with someone else, I'm super happy for you as well. At least I know that I've given you a piece of information to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's not about selling them, right? It's being a consultant, not a salesperson.
Yeah, because I don't firstly run out there with the quote. I ask, hey, why do you want this product? What is it going to mean to you and your family? So why are you asking for $1 million worth of life insurance coverage? I can quote you very easily, but I want to understand you a little bit more and why you need this product.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And I like to, in what I do, how I supplement that exact conversation is say, you know what, like I would love for you to get other quotes. I would love for you to keep the
Yeah.
competition honest, right? I want to know what's going on. See you later, Rohan. I want to hear what my competitors are able, and if you don't mind, let me take a look at everything after all of this and after you get all those quotes here, and I'll be happy to tell you if somebody else is giving you a better deal. I'll
Yeah.
happily send you over here if you're able to get a better dollar. But ultimately, I want to make sure that you are getting, if it's the dollar value that you're looking at, that's what I want to make sure that you get. So, yeah, really good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like the story idea. I use that. Everybody's got a financial advisor. So when I reach out to somebody new, and they say, well, I'm happy with who I have. And I go, do you got a second here, a quick story? And most people will say yes. And if they say no, you're probably not going to get anywhere anyways. And I talk about 7 years ago, went into the pharmacy, pick up my prescription for my diabetes. And my pharmacist said, so what's your blood sugar level at? And I said, well, it's about 9.5. She looked at the prescriptions and looked at me and she goes, you can be doing a lot better. You should go see a different doctor. I went and saw a different doctor that she recommended. My blood sugars came down. I lost 25 pounds and I feel healthier now than I ever felt before. I was happy with my current doctor because I didn't know what I didn't know. Perhaps there's something I can help you with your investments to help you get to the goals you want to get that you just don't know you're missing out on.
Very good point.
And I'll leave it like that. And it works really well because it's a personal story and it's emotional too, right?
Yep.
So
I like that.
Yeah, very good point, Rick.
Always tell stories because that's where it creates more context, that it's genuine, and at the same time they can relate better.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to at least get through the 10 kind of just kind of even quickly cover the last couple points here. So what do we have next, sir, Andy?
Have the ability to listen. Again, active listening, right? The art of listening is a fundamental part of sales mindset. People are so busy selling themselves and their product or service that they forget to listen to their clients. Again, that engine and safety kind of example that I mentioned, right? You have to have active listening. That's typically, I find that great salespeople talk very, very little, but listen a lot, right? You're the one guiding the conversation. You're asking critical targeted questions so you can come to a better understanding of their situation so you can best assist them while at the same time having their best interests in mind, right? Number 6, final one, understanding. Oops, what did I do there? Understanding that failure is part of success. So sometimes despite your best efforts, you won't clinch the sale. Sometimes if what you're offering isn't right for your prospective client, you may be the one who turns down the deal. I know that's very hard to do for salespeople, very hard to do. The key here is to keep trying. Don't lose your enthusiasm and passion, and remember that even the most successful of entrepreneurs has had their share of setbacks. Self-reflect. I do this a lot. Analyze why you didn't win the contract. Was it your, you didn't convey your enthusiasm? Actually, I've been told this before. Actually, David had told me this before when I was at Accra. Okay, Andy, you need to be more enthusiastic. You need to convey that to your clients. I know you're excited about cars, but as a client, they want to sense that. They want to be excited that that you're equally excited about what you do, right? You're happy with where you're working, right? And that's infectious. So why is it doing that? And then again, understanding the information about your client. That's where you can basically prescribe. I always use the example of like a doctor and patient. Do you think doctors ask you questions just for the sake of asking questions? No, right? They are very, very busy people. They ask you very targeted questions, and at the end of the day, you have this. Please, I'm going to write you a prescription for this. This is your solution, right? So I really hold that, near and dear every time I talk to a client, because you're the expert, right? And a lot of times we kind of go off on a tangent by talking a lot, and sometimes we oversell too, right? We lose the deal that way. So that's kind of what I have here in terms of like mindset. There's actually a lot of information as well that I also have in regards to just like certain mindset things, but that's another session.
Yeah, I think what we'd love to do with these here, and kind of what we have always talked about as far as kind of doing this as a series, is we want to hear from other folks as far as like, other professional specialties, and how we can, tweak what we know and provide kind of what is in the automotive industry. Like we have like forcibly been trained hundreds of hours on the sales process and the negotiation process. And separately from that, like I've probably done, I would say, at least 200 hours of training of my own volition in other aspects. Just learning, again, how you can be of better value, how you can instill, confidence from yourself to your customer, and through the whole journey from front to back. And we want to try and highlight as many different kind of specific aspects, and try and adapt those into as many businesses as we can. So if there's any suggestions that you guys have for future on these, please let us know, or things that you want to see here. This is definitely not gonna be the last one of these.
Quick question before we adjourn here, though. See if you guys can give me a response here. What is the best way to sell a box of chocolates? What's the best way to sell a box of chocolates?
What kind of chocolates do you like?
Okay, so you would ask me what my preference is. Okay, how about you, Jason?
Is it for you or for somebody
Yeah,
else?
let's say it's for me. Let's say you're selling chocolates, and I'm at the store. Maybe I'm walking at the mall, and you stop me and grab my attention.
Hey, sir, you looking at some chocolate? I don't know. You got me. Go
Margaret,
ahead.
go.
Which chocolate would you like to try?
Which chocolate would I like
like
to?
that.
You know what? I'm not into chocolate. I just was walking and I'm looking for a gift for my wife, and you approached me. So yeah, I'm not really into chocolates.
Okay.
So I just turned you down, right? I just turned you down.
Yeah. Does your wife like chocolate? Would there be any reason why you would buy chocolates for your wife? Is it Valentine's Day?
No, it's actually she's buying a gift for me. So,
Oh,
and again, she.
I feel like we have to give credit to Margaret, because she did kind of nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
what did I nail?
So here's the thing. The best way to sell a box of chocolates is to give someone a sample. So rather than ask what chocolate would you like to sample, just say, hey, sir, or hey, ma'am, would you like to sample a chocolate? Would you like to sample this piece of chocolate?
Well, I'm assuming you're going to sample the damn chocolate.
That's the first step in the journey.
That's the first step, because what's the whole point of this? Okay.
Because Andy, if you say, would you like to sample a chocolate? No, thanks. Which chocolate would you like to sample is a different question.
Very true. Very true. Very strategically asking. So you can't say no. So the whole point of this question is you're giving a taste of the value up front.
Yeah.
Right. How can you add, now the challenge is, how can you add the value up front in your business, where you give them just enough of a taste to be like, I want more. If the free stuff is this good, I wonder how much the paid stuff is. Right?
For sure.
So again, that's for you to kind of take away and say, hey, what am I doing to convey that people want to ask me more questions, that piques their interest.
And that would be one of the sessions I'd be interested in, is when someone asks you, what do you do? Like, the worst thing for me to say is, well, I'm a financial advisor. Because everybody knows a financial advisor, and nobody, like, we're all in the same group. So how do you answer that question so that they're intrigued and ask you more questions? I've worked on that a little, but that would be a workshop I'd be interested in too.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I would really love to do. And actually, on that note, I just put a link into the chat. I would highly recommend saving it. It's Chris Voss. Danny did his education moment this past week on Chris Voss and the art of negotiation. But the Black Swan Company is his training company, and he has a blog which is basically just excerpts from a lot of his training programs and manuals and books and so on and so forth. And it's always a ton of information. I've been getting it for like 3 years now. And there's also a few on that page there. They have like 10 or 15 different free downloadable like books on the selling process, on the art of negotiation, preparing for things like that. So very, very highly recommend. Tons of free resources. And yeah, I'm sure that we'll have more of these here in the near future.
Yeah, that's something that that question, Rick, that I have in one of my resources as well. But in terms of real estate, because a lot of times people say, what for example, it's like what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a real estate agent. Okay, well, there's 3,000 other real estate agents. Well, what makes you so special? Sometimes the conversation ends. So something that I come up with myself is, I help buyers fall in love with the home that they will buy through discovery, emotion, and logic, right? You got to really.
What did you say?
So I help buyers fall in love with the home that they will buy through discovery, emotion, and logic. So again, that gives people a little bit more content of, oh, there's a little bit more substance behind what you do, and it's like intriguing. It piques their interest. So maybe it's something that, again, we have to think about for you, Rick, in terms of making it very catchy, making it, oh, never thought about it that way. Oh, that's interesting what you do, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, and I had a coach that I was working with, and the way he got me to think that I need to have a better answer for that is he asked me, how many accountants do you know in Leduc? Probably 18. He goes, so what's the difference? I was like, don't think there's any difference. They do your taxes. He goes, yeah, but if you ask each one of them, they're different than the other ones. And if I go ask one of those accountants how many financial advisors are in Leduc, they're going to say 14. And if I ask them what's the difference, they're going to go, oh, there's no difference. They all invest money for their clients. So yeah, having a great answer for that is really important.
yep, 10, 15 seconds. That's sometimes the most amount of time that you have when it comes to talking to a stranger.
Andy, what was it you said? What was your?
So for me, I help buyers fall in love with the home that they will buy through discovery, emotion, and logic.
I like that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that chocolate, like that sampling that chocolate in like any industry, like for myself, that's when somebody calls in to the 1-800 line, and it's anybody picking it up, I'm going to give that guy the best service on that first phone call. I'm going to make sure he gets every answer he's looking for. If he doesn't have the answer, I'm going to tell him that I'll find that answer and I'll get right back to him with it within X period of time, right? Like just to give that snapshot of what it is that you can offer and how it is that you're going to set yourself apart is that's the chocolate is what it is.
Okay. So I challenge you guys to think of what your chocolate is. Because
what's your chocolate?
If I have just a business card that says Jason Hatton, like, okay, Jason Hatton, like, what makes your business card so special from the other business card, right? What's the value up front that you're giving me that, hey, oh, you know what, this is different. I talk to other people that do, life, health, and disability, like, but this person is different. Maybe they don't remember your name at the end of the day, but it reminds them to look at your business card afterwards and say, when they're talking to a significant other or wife or whatnot, and said, hey, I bumped into someone today and, it caught my attention. It's like, oh, what's his name? Oh, it's Jason. Oh, Jason from Jason Hatton Insurance. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll give him a call. And now you're top of mind, right? So, because at the end of the day, you try the chocolate, what's the worst that can happen? They don't buy it.
Yeah.
They don't buy it. At least you have an answer. you didn't invest all the time, your valuable time into that person, trying to convince them to say yes.
Yeah.
They already said, you know what, I'm allergic to chocolate. I don't like this chocolate. Rather than say, you know what, the chocolate tier, you know, the chocolate that we made, it's 35 years of history, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't care about that, right? Let's try it first. Just try it. If you love it, I know you're going to buy you're going to buy a box from me. That's just it. If you love it, you're going to buy a box.
Well said.
Do you know what it is that gets you where the hook is?
Please,
You don't? I know what it is.
please.
I help clients fall in love.
Yeah.
And then you tell them how you do it. Everybody wants to fall in love, especially with the house. And then you tell them how you do it. And they go, oh my God, I want that. I don't care about the house. I just want to do that.
Yeah, it's
Hey, and if I get a house, it's great.
So how do I help them fall in love with their investments?
You know, but there's going to be an emotion attached to that. It's going to be like, I get people really excited about, you know, I can help people feel
Peace of mind.
yeah, peace of mind, or I don't know, some kind of.
I was just gonna say, Rick, I think
the end result. It has to be like, you know what, I help grandparents have the funds and the energy to play with their grandkids at the cabin when they retire at their leisure without pressure and wondering where, you know, having to worry about money. Something like that, right? Like it has to be like, oh, I want that end goal, right? That's what I want. You're speaking my language now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes into, honestly, Rick, you've got a great tagline as far as, you know, trying to differentiate yourself from the separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. But I think the only way that you could even change it all would to be to maybe just like play around with just like the emotional impact of the words that you're trying to use as far as like length. You know, it's very similar to what Andy has, you know, 20 words at absolute most, and deliver it in one sentence. You rehearse it so you know exactly what it is, and you can deliver it with the most impact possible. And then just practice the living heck out of it.
It in your behind of your business card when you give it out, something like that, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, how do you get people all excited about group benefits?
You know what?
Okay, what?
I was just gonna I think with any business, there's going to be no better person to say who can provide and what you can provide as the most value other than yourself. But to keep that kind of format of, you know, give yourself the best or summarize your best 10 Google reviews in like you know, maybe 2 sentences at absolute max is essentially how I would say that. What is it that you think that your customers think sets you apart, and then paraphrase?
The more simple and concise that it is, the more impactful that it is, right? Like, again, that's why it takes time to think about these things, right? That's why a lot of times we're just too busy working on our business. We don't even have time to think about refining things and improving ourselves. This is a chance and exercise for yourself to be like, hey, you know what? I can see this to be very impactful. I know I can leverage this next time I talk to someone that, you know, will influence them. So is it worth your time? I think so. I think it's going to pay back in tenfolds. As
Yeah,
long
and
as
even
that way, why not?
Rick, for our one-to-one on Friday, Rick, let's both of you and I think of something that one. What do you do for a living?
Okay.
We'll think of a good answer. So we'll just trial it out with Danny.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because I got to work on that myself. So I'm going to spend the next day and a half working on that before our one-to-one.
One of the things that we didn't really get to touch on, but is like a super important portion of any process of, you know, selling to a client, is third-party clout and external like reinforcement. And Google reviews are a really good version of that. Third-party websites that talk about, exactly what you're going to talk about. In again, using this, the automotive analogy, the Honda CR-V, this is the safest car that you would ever be able to put your family. Don't take my word for it. JD Power said it on this review, right? Or what, I can help you do this in the most efficient way possible. Don't take my word for it. This is what my clients have said about the way that I'm able to help them out, right? Like it's a really great kickboard into defining what it is that separates you from your competition.
Yeah, reputation, that's another topic that we could touch on later. But yeah, reputation, online reputation is yet another thing.
Awesome.
All right, I have to run, but I got 2 clients I got to put in applications for insurance. So I'm going to be on a Zoom call for another 2 hours tonight.
Nice.
Well, you know what? That's good. You're busy, right? You have the opportunity to serve clients. I think, again, it's just something to be grateful for, right? Don't look at it as 2 hours. It's like 2 hours I get to spend with my clients and help their family.
2 more hours. Yeah, it's all set up, ready to go. And so usually I budgeted 2 hours. They said it's going to take about an hour each to go through all the questions. This is what what to expect. So
Nice.
yeah.
Good luck. Thanks for
All
coming.
right.
No luck with that. Jason's got it handled.
I already got it done. I'm just asking a whole bunch of personal questions.
Mentally, it's already done.
There you go.
It's already done. Okay.
Awesome.
Tell me about your medical history.
Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. We'll be back for more of these here. Appreciate y'all coming.